everyone, it's Erin with Hail Varsity. I'm joined by Greg, also of Hail Varsity. He is our recruiting extraordinaire, and we are back for another recruiting question of the week. This is kind of a two-part piece to set up this question. So first, the NCAA tweeted last week that the Division I Council approved a one-year waiver of signing and initial counter limits to allow schools to replace up to 7 football student-athletes who leave school in the first term. Decisions are not final until the end of a meeting that has come. It sounds like everything went just as it was. You're the recruiting expert.
It went through. That one got
there
passed.
It is. I just trust Greg's knowledge.
That's fine.
But Theo followed up on this, wanting a little bit more information from Greg, asking, can you explain how this will affect this year's Nebraska class, so the 2022 class? Are we looking at being able to take more 2022 guys now, or will this go into effect later?
Okay.
All right, Greg.
There's a lot there. So the short answer of what it does for the 2022 class is no, it does not impact
still a small class.
The 2022 class. It is still going to be a small class. And one of the reasons for that is that Nebraska doesn't have a lot of guys that you look at right away and say, this guy's going to move on, whether it be guys that are non-contributors. And Nebraska doesn't know what's going to happen with the guys that are eligible to be super seniors again next year, right? So the guys that are in that junior class, none of them are necessarily slam dunks to leave, but then they're not slam dunks to come back. It leaves Nebraska in a weird spot. But where this does end up really helping Nebraska is that if you have a situation like they did with that 2020 recruiting class, where you have Keyshawn Green leave after just being here for a little bit, in the next recruiting class, then that would be able to help Nebraska get some of those counters back to be able to replace those scholarships. Because the NCAA, and I'm going to praise the NCAA for once, so
Whoa.
Right.
Whoa. Hold on before you start typing your comments.
Right. I'm going to praise them. This is a really good move because it reflects the changing reality of what college football is today, right? Like, these things happen now. Guys transfer quickly. You need to be able to have a mechanism in place to be able to still use your available scholarships. And so it's a really good thing in the end for the NCAA, but it will not help Nebraska get more guys in the 2022 class.
Yeah, and that's definitely, this 2022 class, I think, is one that people have definitely circled, highlighted, underlined, because it does kind of feel like a bit of a sore topic right now for a number of reasons. Because obviously Nebraska's performance on the field, spoiler alert, we are recording this prior to the game against Michigan, and so we don't know the outcome when we're speaking of this just yet. So I want to be careful in how I say this, but like, Nebraska's performance so far through the season, win or lose, does not matter, and we've talked about this in these videos before. The biggest piece is, honestly, yes, the outcome of the game, but it's also being able to show recruits how they can be used. Yep. So if a wide receiver isn't seeing how Nebraska is effectively using wide receivers, or if a running back is not seeing how Nebraska can effectively run the ball, that's going to play into making this a more difficult sell, I should say, for the 2022 class. And that's on top of the fact that it's already a very small class.
Right.
So, it is what it is to a degree right now.
But on the flip side of that, there are starting to become a couple of things that Nebraska can sell as they need to make late pushes on the 22 class. So, for example, any defensive position right now, Nebraska's in a very good position to get guys interested based on how they're playing defense throughout the totality of the season. And we don't know what happened against Michigan when we record this, but we'll see. And then Nebraska will continue to also, there's a key point here about the small 2022 class. Remember the transfer portal. That's going to be a big thing for this class. Is you won't have a high number of initial high school signees, but you're probably going to look at 4 to 6 transfers out of the portal. Nebraska has had good success with that too. So that's definitely a way to continue to supplement the talent on the team as well.
It's going to be interesting to watch, but it is helpful that the NCAA does seem interested in putting things in place that make things easier down the road for teams as they're sort of navigating the world of recruiting. I mean, the reality is 2020 and the restrictions that were put in place because of COVID-19, and then the new things that they implemented to help schools sort of recover from what was happening are definitely going to have an effect long term. So it seems like the NCAA is interested in at least continuing to kind of help schools through this process. So that's not a bad thing.
No, that's never a bad thing for the NCAA to actually act. So I took my shot at the NCAA.
It never hurts when they actually. It's better to be on offense when you're the NCAA than to be on defense.
Yes.
So they're on offense on this one.
Yes.
Well, if you want to know more about this particular topic, you can head to hailvarsity.com tonight at 6 p.m. Central. Greg will have more in his recruiting notebook, but you can go ahead and just bookmark the recruiting notebook 5 days a week, Sunday through Thursday. Presented by Pinnacle Bank, which we really appreciate them as a sponsor for that. And Greg will have just in general more on this. So if you want a deeper dive, please do. Greg, any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, I'll give additional kudos to the NCAA. Good job, guys.
If you want to follow Greg and tell him if he's right or wrong on the NCAA, I'm just kidding. You can go tweet your questions for next week at Greg Smith HV or at Hail Varsity. We're always looking for questions, so you can tweet them, you can leave them on Facebook, you can leave them in the comments here of this YouTube video. So don't hesitate if you have a recruiting question to leave it. It might not only get answered in this video, but you might actually see it end up in the mailbag. They do get used in a number of ways, and we do try to let you know when we put them in different places. Yeah. So don't hesitate. As always, bookmark hailvarsity.com as well. And we will be back next week with another recruiting question of the week. Until then, thank you for tuning in.